Hi guys and welcome to Fandomnewbie. My name is Shruti and today I'm going to be doing the Intimidating TBR Book Tag. So I've had a bunch of books on my TBR that I've been wanting to read but I just haven't got around to doing them. So maybe doing this tag and going through all the categories and listing down the books will make me actually want to read them or will give me that incentive to read them. So let's just get started. Alright, so the first category is talk about a book that you have been unable to finish. This one has got to be Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. Okay, so I'm not very good at reading non-fiction books. And unless the writing style or the storytelling mechanism or something about the book really hooks me, I take a very long time to finish non-fiction books, and Sapiens has been like that for me. So this book, like it says on the cover, is literally a brief history of humankind. So it talks about the evolution of humans, right from the literal evolution from apes into humans, and then also the different revolutions that humankind went through. So the agricultural revolution, the scientific revolution, and it basically talks about us. It talks about who we are as humans, what we've done on this planet, and the different nuances of humankind. And the premise is very, very interesting. And the writing style also is not it's not very, very difficult. But just for me, the thing of reading a non-fiction book kind of feels like I'm reading a textbook. And that I feel is just a mindset change that I have to get through. It is an interesting book, but I just cannot seem to get myself to finish it. So I'm hoping that doing this video will give me that impetus. The next category is, what book have you yet to read because you haven't had the time? For that one, I'm going with The World of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. Now this book is basically the history of Westeros. And it basically talks about how this entire world came to being, who the different rulers were, the different kings who ruled Westeros, the different wars that took place. And it's so interesting. But the thing is that this history is very, very detailed. There are a lot of things to go through in this book. And I feel like for this, I kind of need to set aside either an entire 1 or 2 weeks just to dive into this book, because it's very intricate and George R.R. Martin's writing is very immersive and also very detailed and descriptive. So I just feel like I need my own sweet time to kind of finish this book and get into it. The next category is, what is a book you haven't read because it is a sequel? For this one, I'm going with The Chaos Walking Trilogy by Patrick Ness. Alright, so I read The Knife of Never Letting Go, which is the first book in this series, about 3 years ago, I think now. 3.5 years ago maybe. And I honestly have completely forgotten what this book was about. All I remember is that it was very fast-paced, it was very gripping, and it was kind of like a thriller. So there's our main character who's running away from someone who's trying to kill him or something like that. I think that's how the book was structured. But I don't remember nuances of the world. I don't remember anything about it. So I feel like for me to get into the next 2 books in the trilogy, I have to reread this one. And that's what's been stopping me from picking up these 2 books, because I just haven't gotten around to rereading this one. So yeah, when I decide to reread this one, I will finally pick up these 2 books and finish this trilogy, because it's been on my TBR for way too long. The next category is a book you haven't read because it's brand new. Alright, so for this one, I'm going with The Glass Hotel by Emily St. John Mandel. Alright, so this book isn't the newest release ever, but it released this year and it released in April, I think. But yeah, I'm still going to count it for this category. So the only reason this book is in my TBR is because it's written by Emily St. John Mandel, who wrote Station 11, which was one of my absolute favorite books. Now, Station 11 is basically this post-apocalyptic novel where there is kind of a disease that has wiped out most of the earth. Not a great book to be reading during this time of the pandemic, but yeah. Basically, a lot of humanity has been wiped out by this kind of disease. And one of the group of people who are survivors are this group of theater actors. and they move around like different places in the United States and they perform Shakespeare plays. So yeah, the premise was very, very interesting for that book, and I loved Emily St. John Mandel's writing style. So yeah, that was one of the only reasons I picked up this book. Also, I found it on Storytel, so I didn't actually have to buy the physical copy, which was perfect like during this pandemic time. That's why it's on my TBR pile. I literally don't know much about this book apart from the fact that it's set in this like beautiful hotel that is set in New York City. It has a lot of dark themes. I think it deals with things like addiction and things like that. But yeah, pretty much that's the only thing I know about this book, and the only reason it's on my TBR pile is because it's written by an author whose other book I really liked. But yeah, let's see. Hopefully I get around to reading this one soon as well. The next category is, what is a book you haven't read because you read another book by the author and didn't enjoy it? So for this category, I have The Invasion of the Tearling by Erica Johansson. So this is the second book in the Queen of the Tearling series, and I read the Queen of the Tearling also about like 3 years ago. And while I did enjoy Queen of the Tearling, for me, it just wasn't like the best fantasy book that I've ever read. And one of the things that I really couldn't wrap my head around in Queen of the Tearling was the world. I just felt like the world in that book just did not make sense to me. So that's why, even though I've had this book on my shelf for a really long time, I just couldn't get myself around to reading it. So basically, the Queen of the Tearling series is a fantasy series, and it's about our main character Kelsey, whose mother has died, and now she has to basically claim the throne and become the queen. But there are a lot of forces that are kind of opposing her, and there are people who want to kill her, and it's basically her journey to kind of ascend the throne. So the premise is actually not so bad, but for me it was just the world. The world just did not make any sense whatsoever for me, and it didn't like make me want to read further. So maybe this one is actually one that will be on my TBR pile, but that I actually might never get around to reading. The next category is, what is a book that you haven't read because you just haven't been in the mood? So for this one, I'm going with The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. So this book is also a fantasy series, and it's basically about a gang of thieves who want to commit a number of heists in like this fantasy world. And I feel like this is a book that is completely up my alley. But the thing that's been stopping me from reading this book is actually very silly. But it's this quote that's on the back of the book that is given by George R.R. Martin. So George R.R. Martin has said that this book is fresh, original, engrossing, and gorgeously realized. And I feel that because it's George R.R. Martin who has praised this book, I just feel that this book will be a little bit intricate, will be very descriptive, and might be a slightly more difficult read than other things which are on my bookshelf. So that's the only reason I've been avoiding it. I know it's very stupid. I know it's very, very stupid. But just like there have been other kind of easy breezy, really fun fantasy books and other like easy breezy, fun like romance books which have been on my shelf that have just been attracting me more, then this book, which seems like it's going to be a lot more intricate and a lot more descriptive. The next category is, name a book that you haven't read because it is humongous. So for this one, I'm going with Lethal White by Robert Galbraith, who we all know is J.K. Rowling. So this is like the third or fourth Cormoran Strike novel that she's written. And these are basically just mystery novels and like thriller novels that are set in London. Now this book is about like 770 pages or something like that, and it honestly is one of the biggest books that is on my bookshelf right now. So that is one of the reasons why I haven't picked this up, because it's just very intimidating. But now I feel like the second reason why I don't know whether I will pick this up like anytime soon is because of all the controversy that is going around because of the anti-transgender tweets that J.K. Rowling has recently put out on her Twitter. So yeah, even though it's like a mystery novel and a thriller novel, which is a genre that I actually really enjoy, I just don't know when I'll be digging into this one. So let's see. And the last one is, what is a book that you haven't read because it was a cover by and turned out to have bad reviews? So for this category, I'm going with The Rest of Us Just Live Here by Patrick Ness. Now, this wasn't exactly a cover by, it was a bit of both. The title was very intriguing, and like the back, like the premise of this book is also very, very interesting. So basically, you know how in all books you kind of have like these chosen ones. like the people who are going off on these adventures, the people who are doing all these crazy things, like the main protagonists of books. This book is actually about the sidey characters. Like, it's about the lives of the characters who are not the chosen ones. The chosen ones are there, like, in their lives, but the story, like the focus of the story is on the surrounding or the background characters who you generally don't follow in a book series. So I just thought that that premise was super duper interesting and like very, very different. But when I went on Goodreads and I saw all the reviews for this book, it just says that the premise sounds interesting, but the book is actually quite boring because there's a reason why like the main characters are the chosen ones, because I guess their lives are technically more interesting than the background characters. So that's why I haven't picked this one up, because it's just like, maybe it's just like, just the premise sounds good, but it actually turns out to be quite boring. So yeah, those are the books that have been on my TBR pile for a long time that I just haven't gotten around to reading. But yeah, let's see if I actually get to reading these books, because some of them I really want to. Some of them are quite interesting and I really do want to read them. Hopefully this video will help me do that. But if you like this video, then give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below letting me know what are some of your books which have been on your TBR pile that you just haven't gotten around to start reading. And of course, do subscribe to my channel for more book related videos like this. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.